Aloha, friends and neighbors. Rollin Frost here, Kona astrologer. Basically a real shy guy, you know. So you don't see me on the video anymore. I'm very shy. The advantage I have is I know I got a certain kind of a chart. That means I got to get up and speak out. So I've had a little extra courage that most of you don't get. Even then, it's been very difficult, especially when I was young. Stand up and tell the truth. Gets you in a lot of trouble doing that. But especially as you get older, and I'm getting older, the truth comes out and you kind of figure you just don't have time to fool around anymore. So here's a little wisdom for all of you. When I was young, I was gung-ho for the country and the army and guns and all of the whole thing. Something happened, though, to us Woodstock generation. And I started looking through the veil, and I saw some of the things this country was doing, and I was horrified. And I began to see how certain things worked, and I got more horrified. And finally I decided I just couldn't support it. I'd drop out. I had turned on, tuned in, and dropped out. So I quit a high-paying job with Dow Chemical, believe it or not, and headed off to the mountains of Hawaii. Well, wasn't too long. Then I got tired of being dropped out and realized that I had these 4 sons. And, that's crappy as the world was, I had to try to do something about it. And I realized how abused the people in the workplace were, how many sneaky health problems they put up with and that nobody owns up to. And I decided to get into that battle, and I dropped back in again. Okay, so I'm going through another one of those now. So disgusted with what's going on with all the environmental health and safety I spent my life on. Trump would like to tear down and tries to do it with a stroke of his pen. Eek, I'm horrified. Turns out it's not that easy. The benefit, here's the good news for you. The benefit of having Trump there is you realize what you could lose and how valuable it is. What do you mean, Mr. Frost? What's valuable? Well, the air is valuable, Yes, it is. And it's like the skin on an apple. It's really thin. It's not as thick as, there's not as much air wrapped around you as you think. And water is really a valuable thing. Now you're realizing that when Trump starts to take away your protection for water, and you realize you've already lost a lot of the water due to bureaucratic crap and EPA and Health Department and a bunch of phony bureaucrats who said they were going to protect you and didn't. And all your kids got lead in their brains and their IQ went down and drop out. Well, now you're aware. So I guarantee you, after you're going to give up and get out and go to Costa Rica for a while, you're going to turn around, come back and join the battle. And that's the good thing. That's the good news about Trump, is he's making everybody aware of what they could lose. Who'd have ever thought there was a good side to Trump? Who'd ever thought that my years at Dow Chemical really had an impact on me and turned me into a fighter against chlorine? Well, let's get to the Skymare. Business first. We're going to cover the middle week of May 2017 and see what's coming up day by day. But before I get to that, here, a little brief thing. I was talking about water. There's a joke. I consider myself an enlightened man. I worked hard at it. I'm very wise. You can see it in my chart. I can brag. I'm like Muhammad Ali. So there's this thing about being enlightened by one of the masters, and he says, what's life about? And the guy says, well, chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. Get enlightened. Chop wood, carry water. Still chopping wood and carrying water. By the way, Trump's big infrastructure bill, there's nothing in it about water. Oh my God. All that. Okay, anyway. Show 1067. That many weeks I've served you. And happy to do it. And thank you for joining me in this show. Interesting things to share with you. Indeed. First, nuts and bolts, I call it. And, I invented this method of graphically showing you where the planets are and what they're doing. It's my invention. Yeah, there's no bullshit sun sign astrology. Dead ends in this one. So, this is just a graphic picture of the sky. Yep, we put 0 Aries over here. But here's where all the planets are, and they all move like this. And then the moon goes around here once a month. And I show that by making these little small notations along the edge where the moon makes angles to these other planets. And that's what gives you the mood of the times. And when you begin to look at it, let's see, here we are. If you're on the Thursday night show, well, the moon is in Sagittarius, a mutable fire sign. And here's Venus about 9-10 o'clock. Oh boy, moon trines Venus. Sexy. Nice. Enjoy. Nice Thursday night. Friday, moon's still in Sagittarius, but there's a problem. What is that problem, Mr. Astrologer? Well, the moon squares Neptune at 14 Pisces. Yeah. At the same time, it opposes Mars at 14 Gemini. Gemini to Pisces. They're both mutable signs. That's a square. What is that? That's confusion and delusion about violence or fires. It's flammable liquids and gases. I was the expert on for the state in that safety area. And that's what this is. And it's happening there on Friday. Flammable liquids, gases, fires. Yeah. And at the very least, you ask yourself what you're protecting. You get impatient, you get angry on Friday, did you drink? Alcohol is fuel for the fire. It's a flammable liquid. Don't drink. So, it's that kind of Friday. It's in the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius. Changes Saturday. In the afternoon, the moon shifts into Capricorn. And here's some different stuff altogether. Here's Saturn. And good old Saturn, he cools things off a bit. Dries them out. Solid. Yeah, that's Saturn. Old-fashioned, Republican, the judge. But he settles things down. And here, he's actually in trine to Uranus and Mercury. The environmentalists are speaking out. And old Saturn here, the judge, he's listening. And you could listen. You might find there's a lot of things here that are important to you. and it's the age of Aquarius. It's the environment, folks. What is this? People call us globalists? Of course we're globalists. The water from the radiation in Japan is here right away. The air goes fast. We're all sharing the same boat. We're all in the same boat together. And that's a globalist, isn't it? Oh no, wait a minute. That guy over at the end of the boat, he's got more than anybody else. He's got guns and he's got food and he's got his own stuff and he's very hostile. And there's the problem for the age of Aquarius. I got mine, screw you. Well, this is no time for that. The environment's going to force us. Mother Earth is going to teach us. No way out of it. Cardinal Earth sign, Capricorn, starts here Saturday afternoon. First you get the amazing enlightenment and solid common sense clicks in all of a sudden. Saturday in the middle of the day, the afternoon, early evening. And then it goes into Capricorn. And Sunday morning you wake up, you're more serious. And you realize there's no sweets here. The moon squares Venus Sunday night at dinner time. Forget the enjoyment. This isn't time for it. And it squares Jupiter Sunday night. Overdoing it. Too much laughing. Don't do that. It does sextile Neptune. So Sunday night late is an opportunity for religion, art, music, church. Play some music. Yes. That's what Sunday night's for. It's the Son. It's the Father. So, good for church. Go late Sunday. On Monday, the moon's still in cardinal Earth, Capricorn. And in the middle of the day, it goes by Pluto. And there's decisive reasoning. Sherlock Holmes is loose. Give it a try. You had a great new moon, or full moon, at 20 Scorpio, sextiled him. He's powerful right now. Just one thing after another. The detectives are out and they're loose, and you're learning about all the underground secret things, aren't you? Things that were secret all this time. Yeah, makes you want to drop out. At least don't support it all. Grow a garden. Cut your income so you don't pay taxes to the military. Follow Woodstock. That's decisive. Monday. Confusion Monday night. The moon squares at Uranus. And there's electronic problems, and there's a feeling of aloneness. Well, I'm all alone if I do this, huh? No, not really, but you feel that way Monday night. You can't communicate Tuesday. Here's the moon squaring Mercury, and the kids are making a fuss, and the car won't start. And so Monday night, Tuesday morning, eek. Nothing technical works. Settles down Wednesday on the 17th. Finally, here's a nice sextile to Venus. There's some love. There's some sweets and goodies here. Not bad. It gets a little rocky about midnight because there's the square to the old full moon at 20 Scorpio. Don't believe that investigator. But there's brotherhood in the morning of Thursday when the moon sextiles Uranus and Mercury. And Thursday could be quite nice. You're not going to get projects done. The moon squares the sun in the middle of the day. But it sextiles Saturn, sextiles Uranus, good common sense, good solid planning, good for executive activities. Not for doing it. Just wait for the action later. Thursday afternoon, the moon goes by the south node. We feel like we need help. Things aren't done yet. But we're communicating late Thursday night. Here's a nice sextile to Mercury. This is like midnight, 1 a.m. Friday. But good communication. A little wobbly Friday morning. The moon hits that new moon point. Squares that Gemini moon. It's a little over emotion Friday morning. But the moon's in Pisces, a mutable water sign. We're all adaptable. As you go towards Friday night, look at there. There's the moon going by Neptune. There's a time to go to church. Read Jesus. When you read the Bible, whenever you read the word heavens, just substitute sky, and you'll understand. Jesus took training in astrology at Alexandria, of course. Well, anyway, that's another book I have to write. Saturday morning, here's the moon sextile Pluto. Discover the new stuff. There is discovery. It changes things. Sometimes it takes away some of your old security. That's okay. Here's a nice full moon point too, Saturday morning. There's discovery. Hooray! The square to Saturn. What about all the conventional stuff? The laws, the regulation. The judge comes up Saturday afternoon and everything slows down. Not too much fun. Sunday, the moon's in Aries. Yeah, on the 21st. And there's a nice sextile to the sun. And you got ambition, and you got projects to do Sunday morning. Get up and go for it early. There's goodies here Sunday night. You're in the Venus zone. The moon's going to go by Venus. You'll see it in the sky a couple hours after the sunset. You'll see the moon and Venus there together. Quite beautiful. Good time. Relax. You had a good productive day Sunday. Sunday night, relax. Go to work Monday morning feeling confident. At least that's what I hope for you. Chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. When I think about my career, all of it, from very early times, in fact, I always turned into the specialist with things you can't see. Things underground. At Dow, I worked with polymers deep under the ground to get more oil out. Secondary oil recovery. You know, when I went to work for OSHA and stuff, I was dealing with things in the air you can't see. Well, chop wood, carry water. This was in the newspaper about April 13th or so in local Kona newspaper, because I wrote a letter to the editor. Now, what is it about? Something unseen. In Kona here, we have a beautiful little bay. Kahaluu Bay is a beach where the water's all 3 to 5 foot deep, and the most beautiful coral is there. Nobody takes the fish and hunts them, even though there's no law. So the fish are like tame, and they're beautiful. You know, folks, I have skin dived, snorkeled all over the islands, all of them. And I never saw the like of Kahaluu. That's the reason I moved here. So I could go over there and, you know, snorkel around and look at the beautiful, beautiful colors and fish and things. Well, now comes this group called Town Development. And we've met them before. They've come into Kona now and then, Mr. Town, and tried to do a big development in some of our very sweetest, best spots. And what they want to do now is put a whole bunch of timeshares just up above Kahaluu Bay. Yeah, wow. So in the newspaper, there's first the Hawaiians objected, there's burials all over. That's sacred ground. You can't put timeshare, you know, stuff there. I got another objection. Look, let me read it to you. The real impact is to the wildlife at Kahaluu Beach Park. These cheap timeshare buildings require underground termicide treatments regularly. These nasty chlorinated pesticides leach through our lava tube soil into the bay and kill the limu and colorful reef fish. It won't take long. On Oahu, they call them legacy pollution, and you cannot eat anything from fresh water, the little streams and little ponds, due to aldrin and deldrin, which are injected for years around the homes to stop termites from eating the cheap buildings. Cheap buildings? Yeah, what happened is the timber companies used to take a piece of wood, put it in a kiln for a month, and it would dry out, and the termites won't eat it if there's no water in it. But then they went cheap, and they just dried the outside and painted chemicals on the ends, and there's all water in the wood, so the termites won't come and eat it. They only want the wood that has water in it. So we got cheap wood, and now we got termites. And they said, okay, well, we'll just kill the termites with chemicals. Problem is the chemicals have to last a long time. So they put chlorine or fluorine or bromine in with a bunch of nasty hydrocarbons, and you got a molecule that just won't degrade. Oh, yeah. And it washes down through the lava. Aldrin and deldrin were the two of the first. Legacy. They call them legacy pollutants on Oahu. Geez, it's your legacy. So, must have been, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I went to the Hawaii County elected council members, and I took them all these large OPEs. They were OPEs the size of, you know, almost silver dollars, the shells. And I pleaded with them to stop this injection of chlorinated pesticides into our soil that leach down into our shoreline. And I gave them each one of these OPE shells, and I told them, look, these came from Magic Sands. But, you know, you put all this housing, these cheap houses up there, and now they're starting to drizzle all these dreadful chemicals. You're not going to have these anymore. And, you know, there's other things you can do. You can put stainless steel mesh under houses. You can put barriers in. They put in a foot of diatomaceous earth or clay or something, and the termites. But unless you make a law, county council, you know, it's not going to happen. And I gave them each an OPE shell, and I left. They didn't move. The head of the county council I give him credit, a young man. He investigated. 3 months later, he said in the newspaper, it's true, they're injecting this stuff all over in houses where there are no termites. It's part of the contract. You buy the house, you fresh injection all over. He said it's crazy, but they still did nothing. And now you're faced with, 300 timeshares just above the most pristine, beautiful water that we have. Yes. And incredible little fish that are all tame, and coral. It's just wonderful. So, save the wildlife at Kahalu. Yes, the burials up above are one of the best ways to stop these guys. Town development had to be stopped before, but they got away with a few. And usually it's because of councils passing stuff and bureaucrats. And this legacy pesticides, folks, is not going to go away. If they build these buildings here, these timeshare buildings above Kahalu Beach, you know, that coral is not going to be pretty anymore, and those little fish are going to go away. So, talk to your councilman. Do whatever you have to do. Talk to your friends. We got to do something about this, folks. Chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. Every time I drive out of my home area here, I see a nice lady pushing along a cart with a baby. She has no idea that there's invisible things. Every time a car goes by, the baby's down there next to the road, going to inhale them. These little particles, small particles you can't see, is what gives you asthma in your first year of life. But our agencies have failed us. Doctors don't tell people. I mean, nobody is talking about this. I made these handouts. That's what this is for. It's a handout to take and give to these mothers. Maybe some mother will understand how important this is and volunteer. Take a bunch of these to whoever sells these baby carriages. Every mother who buys a baby carriage, every athletic lady who wants to go running and get her figure back will not do it out there on Ali'i Drive where all the pollution is. Because she'll understand what she's doing to her baby. Invisible things, particles. Some of those pesticides, too. They're there on the road. Stuff collects there. Now, let's do a little weather prediction here or something. You know, I'm doing this show on April 26th. Well, actually, it's the 27th. 26th was yesterday, April, when we had the new moon that started off the Mars on the bottom of the chart. So yesterday was the beginning of a month when I expect we're going to have more fires than normal, you know, in the islands. So here's another kind of prediction like this. And this is because of the new moon, May 25th. And, you know, I've sent an article to Mountain Astrologer to teach other guys how to do this. Kublai Khan had 5,000 astrologers. He had them all over China. What they did is they watched the new moons and the full moons and the angles they made to things. So I started doing it. Next thing I knew, I'm predicting hurricanes and all sorts of stuff. Now, this is not a hurricane. It looks a little bit like a hurricane because this is Uranus. And Uranus has to do with wind, huh? Wind. Now, I did this chart for Hilo because Uranus is right on the top of the chart. When you go to Kona, it moves a little bit, and it goes a little that way, and we're 1 degree off. Let's see my notes here. I did this a while back. Sometimes, you know, I got to read my own notes. Pahoa is really close. It's only 4 minutes off. So it looks to me like it's going along, the wind is mostly traveling along that side, the Hilo side, the Pahoa, because a lot of my notes are like that. So this is a new moon for May 25th. And I singled out Pahoa wind damage. What albizia trees fall over and cut your power. And, you know, that's... I had one grow up in my yard on Kauai once. It was like a weed. In a year and a half, it was 40 feet high. What the hell? Hollow, almost. Anyway, this is Uranus, and he tends to make power outages, and he deals with wind. And he comes up for you after the new moon, May 25th. May 25th. Now, I also made a note here that actually on May 31st, June 1st, this is a likely time for some of this to happen, or June 7th. And if it doesn't happen on these dates, the very end of May, or a week later, June 7th, then there's some more stuff coming up in August. Anyway, this goes back to Kublai Khan and his 5,000 astrologers. And the nice thing is, these guys could get a little lead time and report to the emperor, hey, we're going to have some wind over there. You know, maybe you should go out and cut that albizia before it falls on your telephone line. There's a benefit to this. The Chinese, whom I greatly admire, you know, they had a 1 mile square city in the middle of the capital, and it was all for growing up young astrologers, training them, schooling them. They got the smartest young mathematical minds they could find, and they had their own 1 mile square city in the center of the capital, just for their professional development. 5,000 astrologers all over the kingdom. And Kublai Khan was the end emperor of a long string of very wise people. So these guys knew what they were doing. That's how I started all of this. And it works. Well, we got to look at those, whatever fires come up, certain spots. You know, the last week in April, first few weeks in May. But this one kind of takes you out of the fire thing, puts you into the wind thing. Interesting, huh? Oh, palmistry. Saw a thing on the internet. If you have an M on your hand, it's supposed to mean you came from Lemuria. I'll tell you more interesting. It's what's called a mystic cross. I got one right there. That's a big deal in palmistry. Palmistry works. It's kind of sloppy compared to astrology, but it works.